Costa Rica. They're there for the warm, safe waters, not any of the food there's no food down there for them. So when they arrive back to their feeding grounds, they may have lost as much as half of their body weight. So they're hungry, and they're going to try to feast on as much food as they possibly can while they're here. And after a summer of feasting on all of these anchovies and krill, or sardines, they get their body weight back up what they want it to be. And just to put this in perspective, a humpback whale could weigh 50 to 90,000 pounds when they're fully grown and fully stocked up with food in their belly. Up to 90,000 pounds. Oh, look at all these anchovies, y'all. Right inside. Look at those. Look for the glistening glimmers. The polarized glasses help a lot. They're a little further from our boat. There they are. Ooh, do you guys smell that stinky smell? Can you guys interact with me a little bit more? Do you guys smell the stinky smell? Okay, you do. Thank you. I feel like I'm talking to you. Okay, so that stinky smell is likely the whale's breath. It wasn't your farty neighbor, although that's possible. So when the whales are eating really well, you can actually smell it in their breath. It kind of smells like this weird broccoli cheddar sensation. You would imagine it to smell really seafoody or like anchovies, but mixed with all of the bacteria that's inside their lungs, it kind of comes out to this like stinky cheddary smell. Which means that these guys have been eating really well. So this female in my imaginary scenario that I've been describing, she got pregnant in the winter time, and throughout the year, she's going to be growing that baby inside of her. And if anyone's been pregnant on this boat, I certainly have not, but I've heard you get hungry, you have cravings. So these females need to really fill themselves up, even more so than they would if they were not pregnant. Because they're growing a huge baby inside their bellies, one of the biggest babies on the planet. So they need to feed on a lot of food in order to continue growing that baby in their belly. And eventually, maybe come October or so, they will leave their feeding grounds and start making the migration back down to their breeding grounds. And when the pregnant female arrives back to her breeding ground, she is going to go ahead and give birth and keep that baby in the safe, warm, tropical waters for as long as she can. There's no predators down there. People always say, well, why do they travel all that way down to give birth down there? And I always say, well, you wouldn't want to give birth in a crowded cafeteria just because there's food there, or like a grocery store. You know how grocery stores are really cold? That's no place for a newborn baby just because there's food for mom there. A year, so it's one full migration cycle. So 1 year she gets pregnant in the breeding season. She'll spend the year trying to feast on as much food as possible. And when she returns to the breeding ground the next year, she will give birth. It's about 11 to 12 months. I know, right? And while she's down in the breeding ground for those first few months after giving birth, she's going to try to fatten that baby up as much as she can, feeding him some of the most nutrient-rich milk on the planet. When you and I go to the store to buy milk, we usually get 1 to 2% milk. That is the fat content percentage. These whales could have a fat content percentage of up to 40%. Can you imagine if we were eating 40% fat milk? That would be crazy. It's usually the consistency of cottage cheese or cream cheese. And it's very nutrient rich, allowing the baby whale to gain over 100 pounds in a single day. trying to fatten that baby up on all of that nutrient-rich milk. Come the early spring, late winter, she's going to take her baby and start the long migration back up north, which is a long journey for just a few month-old baby. And she will continue nursing that baby along the migration north. When the baby is about 6 months old or so, and they've now arrived in the breeding ground, the feeding ground in the summer, that's when mom is going to start teaching her baby how to hunt on his own. So she'll kind of wean her baby off of her, feeding or teaching him how to hunt. And after a long summer of teaching her baby how to hunt, they will make their migration back down south, return to the breeding ground a year after giving birth to him, and then around that time is when they usually will go their separate ways. So female whales will typically get pregnant every 2 to 3 years. So it's a year of pregnancy, a year of raising that baby, and then oftentimes a year of rest. Because imagine how much energy it takes to feed a growing whale. Wow, that's a big whale. That one closer to us is that big size whale. There's that tail fluke. Wow.
Finally.
So I believe that was our mama.
Yeah. You're taking
These whales
pictures
have
in
only
your
really
mind's
been
eye.
giving us little glimpses throughout the trip.
We can take photographs that way too.
But that was a big whale there. Now, humpback whales are certainly not the largest whale on the planet whatsoever. Does anyone want to give a shout? We already answered this question earlier, but can everyone just shout out what's the biggest whale in the world?
Blue whale!
Oh, you guys are so smart. Thank you so much. Yes, you are all correct. The blue whale is the largest animal on the planet, the largest whale on the planet. They are about 100 feet long, which is the length of our boat. So our boat is about blue whale length. Now a humpback is generally about half of that. About half the size of a blue whale, about half the length of our boat. Believe it or not, with baleen whales, and we already remember the baleen whales are the ones that have this big mustachy thing in their mouth instead of teeth. The females in baleen whales are generally larger than the males. Whereas in toothed whales, such as dolphins, orcas, porpoises, sperm whales, generally speaking, those ones have larger males than females. So that's an interesting difference between baleen whales and toothed whales. Typically, the males will be about 42 to 50 feet, and typically the females will be about 50 to 55, up to 60 feet. Generally speaking, I just usually say they're about 50 feet. A big whale, if you ask me, but still considered a medium-sized whale. Each humpback has its own unique tail fluke pattern. So if we were behind the whale and the whale took a dive, showing us that tail fluke of theirs, fluke is a fancy word for whale tail. The underside of it is unique and specific to each individual whale, the same way that my fingerprint is different than any of your guys's. So the underside of the humpback whale's tail fluke can be used to identify the individual that we're looking at. There's a research project known as Happy Whale, where they work to decipher the different whale tails seen throughout the world and specifically along the west coast of North America. They use a technology similar to facial recognition that like Facebook uses to tag your friends in. And through this identification, we can learn more about where an individual whale may have been sighted and what migration pattern he may take. That's a pretty cool project. I don't know if we've gotten any amazing tail fluke looks today, but if you did, you can go ahead and submit your photo to happywhale.org or .com, I forget. I think .com. And they'll write back to you within a couple of days and tell you which whale you saw. Which is pretty incredible. We have a few celebrity whales in this area. One is named Google. Yeah?
Are there any shark balls out here?
Do you mean whale sharks?
Yes.
There are no whale sharks out here. I have a pop quiz for you. Is a whale shark a whale or a shark?
It's both.
A whale shark is actually just a shark. It's the biggest fish on the planet. I know, it's a stupid name, or a silly name, because it's like, is it a whale or is it a shark? Have you ever heard of a tiger shark?
Yeah.
Is a tiger shark a tiger or a shark? A shark. Have you ever heard of a bull shark? Is the bull shark a bull or a shark? Yeah, exactly, you got it. So the whale shark is named after how big it is, but one good indicator if something is a whale or a shark, sharks' fins, wait, look at my hand real quick, friend. When sharks swims, their fin in the back, their back fin goes side to side, right? You know what I'm talking about? Like a fish? Whereas these whales, their tail goes up and down like this. So that's a good way of knowing if it's a whale or a shark.
Let's go to the cabin.
Lucky to see not just one whale, but two whales here with us. It's very exciting. It doesn't happen all the time. And these whales are really giving us amazing looks at them. People always say, do the whales know that we're here? The answer is yes, absolutely. These whales have an incredible sense of sound and hearing. With those incredibly powerful whiskers, they are able to sense minute vibrations in the water. So the whales definitely can feel the power of the boat with us. But what I like to think about is that if these whales didn't want to be here, they would have the entire Monterey Bay, if not the entire west coast of North America to choose from. We're not chasing them down in any way whatsoever. Our boat is pretty much in neutral. So these whales are